Well, listen, the thing about this movie, why I put it much higher than that, I like it. And that's all I got.
Let them fight.
Welcome to Film Fights, where we don't just talk about movies, we make them fight. Today we are doing a special episode of Ranking Royale, where we usually take our top few picks. Each of us take our top few picks from our favorite franchise or genre, and we basically try to rank them to give you the best of the best. However, today we're actually taking the entirety of the DC Expanded Universe, because as you may or may not know, the DC Expanded Universe, the DC Universe, that's the starting from Man of Steel to Aquaman 2, is over. It's done. They've decided to put a cork in it. It wasn't working for them.
It did not get far.
Didn't get that far. I mean, what was it, 2013 to 2023?
Yeah, it
so
was
yeah,
10 years.
10-year run. Not a great 10-year run at that. But at the end of the day, there's some movies we like, some movies we don't like, and this is actually the second time we're recording this, because if you may or may not have seen my channel post, the audio kind of crapped out on us. So we're trying some different things with the audio today. I don't think we'll have that problem, and just in case we do, I have a backup contingency microphone that should be recording everything. So with that, I guess we should all just get into our rankings, and let's talk about some DC Expanded Universe. Real quick, we're going to give you the movies in the DC Expanded Universe according to how they released. So it starts with Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad 2016, Wonder Woman, Justice League, Aquaman, Shazam, Birds of Prey, and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, Wonder Woman 1984, Zack Snyder's Justice League, The Suicide Squad or Suicide Squad 2, Black Adam, Shazam Fury of the God, The Flash, Blue Beetle, and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom came out December 22nd of 2023. And if you want to hear my thoughts on that movie in detail, I recommend you go to my Butster Brown channel, and the link in the description, and check out my review. With that, it's not shame. Look, I don't have merch to plug. This is it. I have to plug my own other channel. Kyle, give us your ranking of that list from least to greatest.
All right. At the bottom, I have Justice League, then Aquaman 2 right above it, Wonder Woman 1984, The Flash, Black Adam, Blue Beetle, Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey, The Suicide Squad by James Gunn, regular Suicide Squad, I don't remember who, Zack Snyder's Justice League, Batman vs. Superman, any version of it, Shazam 2, Wonder Woman, Man of Steel, Aquaman, and then Shazam at the top.
Alrighty, that is Cousin Kyle's list. Alright, Tay, bless us with your takes. And he actually is missing two. He didn't watch the Suicide Squad or Harley Quinn. Yeah, Birds of Prey, the Harley Quinn movie. Anyways, so what's your 14 then?
My 14 is Aquaman 2. That movie sucks. My 13 is Shazam 2. That movie also sucks. My 12th movie is Wonder Woman 2. It also sucks. 11, Black Adam. Pretty bad. 10, Justice League.
We've got off of It Sucks, so that's good.
number 10 is Justice League. Number 9 is Suicide Squad. Number 8 is The Flash. Number 7 is Zack Snyder's Justice League, the long 4-hour one that nobody asked for. Except for like
well, actually, many people asked
that was
for
a
it.
bad.
I would actually say that it might be the most asked for movie of all time.
That was honestly a rough pick to say nobody asked for. Number 6 is Aquaman. Number 5 is Blue Beetle, but it has the potential to be number 1. Number 4 Shazam. Number 3 is Man of Steel. Number 2 is Batman vs. Superman. Number 1 is Wonder Woman.
Alrighty, and that is Tay/the Fob's picks. And for me, we have at number 16, Justice League. Number 15, Wonder Woman 1984. 14, Aquaman 2, 13, Suicide Squad, 12, Black Adam, 11, Shazam 2, 10, Blue Beetle, 9, The Suicide Squad, 8, Wonder Woman, 7, Birds of Prey. Shazam at number 6. The Flash at number 5. Aquaman at number 4. Zack Snyder's Justice League at 3. Man of Steel at 2. And number 1 is Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, the Ultimate Edition. So, without further ado, let's get to our combined consensus ranking, which at number 16, with the fob withholding.
Aquaman 2.
What? No, I was going to say Justice League.
Well, I'm not going to fight to the death. So.
Yeah.
I just want to get this one out of the way.
Yeah, just Justice League. Just get it out. Just get the Justice League out.
We'll get Justice League out.
Let's do Zack Snyder's one next.
No. It's number 7 on your list.
They can be together.
At this point in the ranking, it's just like, it's about, hey, do I like the 2 things that are good in this movie or the 1 thing that's good in that movie?
Yeah.
For me.
One thing I'll say about Justice League is if Zack Snyder's Justice League didn't exist for me, it might be like 1 or 2 places higher, but I can't ignore the reality that a completely better cut exists and completely invalidates this movie's existence. So
I have to say it yet again, because everyone thinks it's my favorite movie apparently. I was the first one to hate this movie, okay? I was the first one. I saw the trailers. I didn't want to watch it. My dad took me to see it. I didn't like it. He thought I just didn't want to go. Nuh-uh. This movie wasn't good. And that's when I realized, oh no, they're all going to be like this, aren't they?
yeah.
And I was right.
You know, like, when you watch BVS, you might have thought Batman v Superman or, like, Man of Steel, you might have thought, those movies were a little dark, but I can see some potential in this sort of direction. And then you see Justice League, and it's like this Marvel MCU clone, but, like, not nearly as good as what Marvel does, and it's like, oh my goodness. I sure hope that the rest of them aren't like this.
They were all like this.
And the rest of them were like that. Unfortunately, though, this one I would say is worse than almost all of them. And it's the worst for the film fights triumvirate here. So we're going to put Justice League at number 6, and we can move on to the next one,
Which is Aquaman.
Aquaman 2. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Well, I think Aquaman 2 is, and if you watch my review, you'll know that I wasn't exactly a big fan of this movie. But at the end of the day, when I really think about it, I had like a passable-ish time watching the movie, but it being the capstone for DC's expanded universe, like them just being like, yeah, we're coming out, like they did not go out with a bang at all. They're like, this is how we were ending it. We're just trying to get it out so we can gain some of our money back. It felt like there was no passion and a movie stripped of all life and all meaning. And there may be a cut of this movie out there that's somewhat better.
Release the Aquaman 2 cut.
I don't want to see.
Oh, no.
I'm not going to clamor for that. I feel like it maybe be a little bit better, but at the end of the day, this movie ranges from like mediocre to just straight bad. Nothing really worked for the most part. Like, had some cool shots. I liked Orm and Black Manta looked cool. Everything else is just kind of like blah. What do you guys have to say about Aquaman 2?
Nothing good.
We disliked it a lot more than you did, and you didn't like the movie.
You know it's bad when like I basically just gave a super negative review, and then you guys were like, it's way worse than he.
It's actually worse than he makes it out to be.
Yeah, he actually gives it more props. Than
There were
it
many
deserves.
times, many such cases throughout this movie. You could see me looking down at my watch and I go, oh no, we're only 40 minutes in.
A fob turned to me, and he was
Thought
like,
it was almost over.
He's like, is the movie almost over? And I'm like, dude, it's been like 45 minutes. And he was like,
No.
It was so bad. It was
Yeah.
so bad.
I didn't feel that way necessarily. And I'm just saying, for like the average moviegoer who wants to see spectacle and just turn their brain off, it might just be passable enough for them. For me though, it was
be.
below passing, and for these guys it was like a turd in the wind, to quote Venom. So Yeah, Aquaman 2 is comfortably sitting at 15, and it's just not good.
By now, I don't think we have a lot of argument putting
Wonder
Wonder
Woman
Woman 1984 here.
Yeah, Wonder Woman 1984 is...
I wanted to like it. It has a couple things that I think are good, at least with setup, and then just doesn't do much with it, and then movie just falls apart at the end.
Pedro Pascal.
He acted well.
Yep, that's my only
So
positive.
Why I would put this movie over Aquaman is that while I found Jason Momoa's portrayal of Aquaman in the second movie just pretty unbearable for the most part, just obnoxious. I still like Gal Gadot's take on Wonder Woman. It's one of my favorite takes on the character. I think she really finds a great balance between the feminine side and like the strength side of the character, and I like how the first movie introduces the lore of Themyscira and everything, and I think it's well. And so already
it's really sad because she is the best portrayal of Wonder Woman in terms of conceptually. Like, this was the best one.
It's a little bit of like an Andrew Garfield situation.
But we did not have a good story going with it.
Yeah, it's like a little bit like an Andrew Garfield situation where I think he's a great Spider-Man. He's just not in the best movies. Wonder Woman 1984, it's got a really good Wonder Woman in a not great movie, but I like right off the bat when it started, I just remember thinking that like the style, the energy just didn't feel quite right when the first, and I was like, okay, they're going for something more cheesy and campy, trying to fit in with the 80s. They're not going for that like aggressive Zack Snyder style now. And so I was already disappointed, but that's not going to tank the movie. But as the movie went on, just plot decision after plot decision, generic character after generic character, like nothing makes sense. Some really like weird wish rules. Like, it's almost like they're trying to be like, well, you can't just raise someone from the dead with Steve, so he has to possess some random guy's body. But then it's like, Max Lord, someone makes a wish, and then like walls just erect from the ground, and I'm like, what is the like exact sort of rules around these wishes? Like, what's possible and what's not possible, right?
Yeah.
And it's also just like, things just didn't matter. Like, nothing was that cohesive. And by the time you get to the end, you're like, it's not like anyone's mind was erased. And so, just as a spot in the universe, which isn't as important, but the movie falls apart on its own. But even if you think about it in the context of the universe, when Superman comes in Man of Steel, it's like, wow, we've never seen anything like this. But then it's like, hey, remember that
Wonder
one
Woman
event?
forgot how to fly also.
Yeah, she forgot how to fly. But I just like, hey, remember that one event in 1984 where everyone's wishes came true and nukes flew and then it just went away randomly? You know, like, yeah, everyone was just like on mushrooms that day. I don't know. I was in denial when the movie ended. I was like, it wasn't that bad because I like Wonder Woman. It was fun. And then I just remember like laying in my bed like, oh no, it was so bad. And unlike Aquaman 2, well, it's like, I expected a lot from this movie because the first one was pretty good. I thought that they could take what I considered to be a somewhat good premise and expand upon it, and instead they just flushed it down the toilet. Does anyone else have anything they want to say about Wonder Woman 1984?
Nothing good.
Nope. All right. Wonder Woman 1984 sits right at 14 with no complaints from any of us. 13. All right, this is where things are going to get a little bit interesting.
Yo, Black Adam, Shazam 2. We got lots of options.
I think...
I don't know how much I can convince you guys that the Flash belongs here, so maybe we'll put Black Adam on the chopping block.
I think Suicide Squad should be on the chopping block before Black Adam. I mean, it is literally my list, like on my list there, but like Suicide Squad, just as a movie with a plot, like, just doesn't work.
Well, listen, the thing about this movie, why I put it much higher than that, I like it. And that's all I got. That's all I got.
Well, I'll say this about the Suicide Squad. I like Will Smith. And Will Smith's in the movie. And I think he does a decent job as Deadshot. Margot Robbie's great as Harley Quinn.
Also true.
I like her in the movie.
I like the credits. The credits looked good.
I'm sympathetic. Yes.
Isn't it good when you compliment the credits of a movie?
Exactly. I'm sympathetic to Jared Leto's take on the Joker. I don't feel like he really got enough time to shine for his version of the character to be fully realized. That being said, the version we got is bad. And that being said, the movie we got is bad. It's got a little bit of that overproduced syndrome where they showed it in the test screenings and they cut it up a bunch because they wanted it to be more fun. And then what you end up getting is this jumbled mess. I mean, Black Adam, not great, but it's a cohesive movie for the most part. Does it have pacing issues? Yes. Do jokes not land? Yes. Is it really kind of just generic? Sure, but we're not talking about the greatest superhero movies of all time. We're unfortunately talking about the DC expanded universe. And I think Suicide Squad on a technical level, well, maybe not. It looks nice. I think it's a nice looking movie for the most part, but it's just such a flawed movie. I can't, in good conscience, put it above Black Adam. But
I don't think it's a nice looking movie.
You see, you don't even think it's a good looking movie.
Well, I like it. I like it more than Black Adam.
Bob, what are your thoughts? Because you've seen Suicide Squad 1.
I thought I liked it. I feel like I'd still probably put Black Adam before it. Like, I think Black Adam's probably a worse movie.
I don't think it is, though. Like, I think... I guess I can see... The Suicide Squad is just... Ugh. Or not the Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad is just... It just doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. It's like... There's the literal plot doesn't make sense.
Correct.
It doesn't... Like, the fundamental plot doesn't make sense.
Correct.
At all.
I still like it more than Black Adam.
I mean, I guess that's fair. But, like... It's like there's some serious errors in the script of Suicide Squad that, to me, bar it from just being passable, especially when, like, I just think it's not good. And I think Black Adam, at least for what it's going for, mostly succeeds in it being a spectacle piece where it's giving Black Adam, who's a little bit of a darker hero, so to speak, where you get The Rock being The Rock. And I think from just a entertainment B-movie superhero, I think it gets that pretty well for the most part. I think it has some pacing issues. Once again, we're dealing with a mediocre villain, but Suicide Squad doesn't fare any better in that scenario. So it's like... I think Black Adam actually has cool things that I like, and I mean, even when the Fob walked out of Black Adam, he was like, he said it was like his favorite DC movie of all time. Go to my Buster Brown channel, Taste Takes, to check it out.
Definitely was being completely serious.
He was, though. He actually liked it a lot. So
may I point out, he did not walk out of Shazam 2, apparently.
No.
So, which one's the better movie? You tell me.
Yeah. And I think Suicide Squad, the Fob did not like it when the movie ended. And so I guess you could say maybe on hindsight, but at the same time, I just think Suicide Squad doesn't work. It plays a song from Kanye West's Yeezus, and I like it, but other than that, I don't think it works. And I don't think that, as Kyle said, there's really any arguing for it.
I don't know the argument for it.
Because it's not good.
Well, you can put it there then.
Sweet.
Right.
I'm putting Suicide Squad.
But then we're putting Black Adam.
I'm fine with that.
All right.
Yeah, Black Adam. Honestly, even though it's on my list, I don't even... I would say between Blue Beetle, Shazam 2, and Black Adam, they're all about at the same level for me. where they're not.
Speaking of Shazam, too.
I consider Black Adam a technically complete, passable movie. I cannot say the same for The Flash, and that's why I put it lower.
You know, we could do The Flash next. You know, we could get The Flash.
I like the sound of that. I like the sound of that.
So
you tricked us the first time. You got by so far, and Flash got up so high, and we didn't realize it. You can't get us this time.
well, okay. Here's what I'm gonna say. The Flash is number 8 on the Fob's list. And it's number 5 on my list. So, you know, and we're at number 12.
I'm saying
let's just wait a little bit.
If you think about it,
From Black Adam.
we've gotten far now from where the Flash should be on my list.
From Black Adam to where basically the Flash is. Maybe Zack Snyder's Justice League. All these movies like suck equally. So I could put them in any order.
Well,
so
so that's the difference. I think that the Flash works pretty well. I think that the Flash is I think the Flash is a good movie. Like straight up, I think it's one of the better movies in this universe. I think that it does a lot of things good, and a lot of things could have it been better? Sure. Is there a better version of the Flashpoint story out there? Yes, but as like a DC expanded universe take on the Flashpoint story, I like what they did with it. I enjoyed it. And maybe I'm biased because I watched this in a packed theater where everyone was just vibing with the movie and they had a lot of great energy.
Definitely biased.
But I mean, even after the movie, once again, I talked to the Fob and he was like, yeah, that's one of the better ones in the movie. Or in the universe. I liked it a lot.
Real high bar.
And so it's, I think there's a lot of not for you. I know you didn't like it. I'm not talking about you, but I think there's revisionist history.
Have you ever considered someone's opinions on a movie can change?
I'm just saying, it's not like you watched it again. I think, I'm just gonna put 11 here. By the way, I just gotta say this, Black Adam's at number 12. We're all cool with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. All right, Black Adam's at number 12. I think that The Flash, well, I guess what is your issue with The Flash? So I guess if we want to talk about The Flash, we can talk about The Flash, but what is your issue with The Flash?
I think my main issue is that every step of the way when it introduces something new, it doesn't take it anywhere, it doesn't go anywhere with it. And so it results in the movie just being way too long and not a lot happening. And so when a movie has their own concepts, I want it to stick to those concepts. So, on the topic of time travel does not need to be realistic, because time travel isn't realistic. You cannot go back into the past. It is not possible.
Allegedly.
But the reason movies like Back to the Future work are because it says, hey, this is how time travel works in this context. And it sticks to that. And it does cool things with it. You get to see neat little ways that it plays with that concept and how it pertains to the story, and there are consequences. This is not true in The Flash. In The Flash, they say these are the rules and proceed to break them almost every step of the way. They do not play with how time travel works specifically, and essentially the ending is completely upended by what they put forth, and the proper lessons are not learned. So because they kept changing what they were trying to do along the way, I think that I don't usually care about bad effects, but we'll get to this more in Zack Snyder's Justice League. But when you have a lot of shots with a huge focus on effects, your effects need to look good, or else those scenes are falling completely flat and there's no inspiration behind them anymore. And this movie has a lot of those at really core emotional moments. And otherwise, I don't know. I think they just spends too much time in places it doesn't need to. It was really weird to go back to having Zod be the villain, because that's just, a lot of it is other examples of when you introduce this concept of completely changing your world in any way. What we get from this world is another Batman, one that we've already seen on screen, no less. I like him. He's my favorite. But
yeah,
he's had his time, and this movie only just it's just reusing content all the time. It's just reuse this Batman and doesn't do very interesting things with him, actually. In fact, it's less interesting because he's just sitting around not being Batman for all that time. And there's no adjustment period, and he just goes right back to it because he feels like it. And then, like, Supergirl is not in a different position from Superman by the end of that movie, really. And then you have another Flash, and then that's it. You've actually decreased the amount of characters and concepts you can use instead of going to this world and being able to completely change everything. Almost nothing was changed.
Yeah.
Which is against the point of the movie. But then it says it's completely self-defeating what it ends up being.
Well, I'll say this.
It's just hard to enjoy any of it when the movie is just fighting with itself so much.
So I can understand why that bothers you. And I agree with a lot of what you're saying. One of my biggest pet peeves in a movie is specifically with time travel, and when, like in Avengers Endgame, when they're like, yeah, how you think time works in the movies, it's not like that. And they're like, what? And they do that, and then
they do the same thing.
But then they do the exact same thing. But then they do the exact same thing. And then in this movie, it was like, they're like, yeah, how you think time works doesn't work like that at all. He uses a spaghetti analogy or whatever. And it's like, and the only way I can see it is like still making sense is that Batman is just completely wrong. And he has no idea what he's talking about. Because he's an old fart who sits in a mansion by himself. That's like a funny way of looking at it. But at the same time, I don't think that's what the creators were trying to tell me, that, yeah, Batman's just this old fool who doesn't understand how time works. So I think that I understand that as like a criticism. And I understand a lot of what you're saying just about the characters and not changing up the world that much. And from that standpoint, I can kind of see that it doesn't do as many things as it could have. There's definitely a case of lost potential in the movie. Do I think that makes it worse, though, than Shazam 2, Blue Beetle, and the Suicide Squad? No. And I can obviously go into more than that. Like, nope, that's not enough. Moving on. But I think that the Flash... Oh, and also the special effects are really bad. Like, yeah. I'm not even going to remotely to try and defend... When your movie is like has a $300 million budget, and it's been sitting in the oven for what I can tell is like 4 or 5 years. And
they spent it on Ezra Miller's lawyers.
Yeah, I guess so, because the movie doesn't look good at all. It looks really bad. And I don't know if that was a creative decision that just went horribly wrong, or they didn't. I don't know. I just don't know. It doesn't look good, though. At the same time, there's still a lot that I like in The Flash. Whereas like with like a Black Adam or Shazam 2 or Blue Beetle, there wasn't like a whole lot that I'm like, oh yeah, I just really liked that. There's a lot of things that I really liked, like in The Flash. And I think one thing I liked is the focus on Barry Allen. I think that despite Ezra Miller's behavior, I thought he actually played a really good Barry Allen. I didn't find him obnoxious like Aquaman and Aquaman 2. I thought as a protagonist, he was pretty good. I thought that there was a lot of fun and creative sequences that they did in the movie. The special effects standing. I like that opening scene where like Barry's try to like save everyone and he has to run really fast. I thought that had a lot of good humor. I thought that him kind of doing his thing as the Flash worked out well. I kind of liked how they're basically saying like, yeah, the Flash is kind of like the janitor of the Justice League. Basically, he's just cleaning up the mess that the rest of them leave. And I think that that's kind of just like a funny little thing. And as someone who, I haven't read like Flash comics, to be honest, but I watched a lot of the Justice League animated series. Flash is kind of treated like a butt monkey a lot of times in those shows. And so it's funny. It's kind of just fun for me to see in those movies them treating him kind of like the same way. Like, yeah, just go take care of that Flash, even though he can run so freaking fast. You think he'd be more useful. So just as a concept, I think that was really funny. I like that you get to see the entire Justice League for the first time since like 2017 actually doing something together as a team.
Well, together. They're not actually
Look,
even on screen at the same time.
They couldn't afford Henry Cavill or something. I don't know what's going on. But like, point is, I kind of liked having them around. And I kind of liked showing them that just the concept of them being a team. Do I like Batman making jokes because of the lasso of truth? No, don't like that. That was garbage. But overall, I like that concept. I like how it carries on that arc from both Justice League movies that Bruce Wayne is sort of a mentor to Barry. And he's trying to like teach him. He sort of foreshadows some of the repercussions of Barry going back in time. And I also like that there's a dynamic between Barry and Batman, because Batman's like, he can understand losing a parent. And Barry's lost a parent. He's like, hey, I can change that. And so for Batman to be like, hey, man, it's not a good idea. Like, even if I want to see my parents, it's like, that's something that, like, you can't change. You can't change the past. And that is a theme that I think stays true throughout the movie. Like, you can't change the past without bad things happening. And that, like I said,
but it's not, because the ending, he changed the past and bad things didn't happen.
That's not true.
Didn't his dad get like not make? Didn't he make his dad like innocent? Like,
yeah,
proved him innocent.
Yes.
Yo, but I'm not. But that's the thing, though. It didn't. But it wasn't consequence free, because now you get George Clooney as Batman.
So.
It's George Clooney, man. No, it's him as Batman. And I think that, like,
who cares?
It's the idea that you can't just like mess with things, and it's gonna like go unresolved. And so it's obviously like it didn't just go back to normal. You can't have your cake and eat it too. I mean, that
did.
I mean, not
just Batman was a different dude. Other than that, everything else is fine.
No, but I mean, I still think
But that's against the point of the movie, because it didn't change, like, it didn't change enough.
Well, look, I think
the fact that it somehow only changed Batman's life should be more strange.
Well, I don't think it only changed Batman's life, because we don't get a full realization of everything going on.
Then I think that's a big flaw with the movie.
Well, I get what they're going for. And I guess I'm jumping ahead of myself. I'm saying the point is that Barry realizing to let go of his mother is something that he's trying to do, right? That's kind of his arc, is realizing I have to let my mother go. And I can't change the past. You see a version of Barry in that movie literally get corrupted by everything because he's trying so hard to change the past. And it's showing kind of what Barry can become. You have a physical representation of that. The world not being, you mentioned the world not being too different as like kind of like an unintended consequence, or like something you didn't like. I'm okay with that, because it's the potential that, hey, yeah, like, look, the world is going to be incredibly different once Zod comes, because kind of what you ended up doing. And so it's him trying, well, surely we can find a scenario where this is going to happen, but it's kind of like, not to like steal from Spider-Verse 2, but like a canon event. You know, he's trying to change a canon event, and he has to realize like certain things are just, they're meant to happen, and I can't change those things. I think Zod coming back too, you didn't like that? I do like that, because as sort of a capstone to the DC expanded universe, bringing back the villain from the first movie, which is also a villain that I liked a lot in the first movie, sort of bringing him back, I think works pretty well. I like him sort of being back. It's the biggest event that kicked off the DCEU is kind of what's closing out the DCU. And so as like a bookend sort of thing, I think that it does that okay. In fact, I would have preferred this movie to come out after like Aquaman 2.
So my only thing is, this movie didn't come out after Aquaman 2. It came out before, which was entirely their choice. That was the decision that they made, so it's not meant to be the bookend. Because that's not what they did.
But I think
they're completely in control of that.
Well, but after this movie, it's like Blue Beetle comes out, and that they're saying might be in this new universe, and so that's fine. Aquaman 2, I don't think anyone knows where that movie's placed. I don't know like where it's at, but I just like conceptually when I watch the movie that it's as a bookend. I think that works pretty well. I like seeing Michael Keaton back, and once again, I think that there's that.
But you can't say it works well as a bookend when it's not a bookend.
Well, it's bringing it back to the beginning after like 10 years. I still think works. Like Aquaman 2 is not great, but like that's just like it's kind of its own little thing. I think that like this movie is basically them like bringing it back to the beginning. It's kind of like a reminder of how it started. And it doesn't even need to be like the book end, like the definitive end. But like I think as like an idea, I still think it works fine. I still think it works pretty good. And I think that The Flash also just... I mean, I thought The Flash, like, this one's subjective, but I found it pretty funny. I thought a lot of the jokes landed. I thought Supergirl, the actress for her, I thought she did a good job. I don't think she was like necessarily like a super developed character or anything, but like she wasn't meant to be. And I'm okay with that because the movie didn't focus on her too much. I like how it's fun seeing Michael Keaton back too as Batman, and I think it's interesting to see him with like actual like good special effects. Well, not good special effects, but you know what I mean. Like see him with modern like fighting and actually, because that's one thing I didn't like about like the older Batman movies is I felt like the fight scenes with Michael Keaton look kind of mid. So, and this
I still don't think these ones were very good actually.
Well, I'll disagree with you a little bit. I don't think that they're like the best thing in cinema. It's not the best Batman we've seen, but it was fun seeing him in a different type of scenario, fighting in the way like that you'd see a modern superhero fight. And once again, there's that tie between him and Barry where like he kind of understands and sympathizes with Barry's plight because Barry's lost a parent. And I think Barry letting his mom go at the end, I thought that was a great sort of closure to him letting her go. And I liked that a lot. And then deciding to live with a life where she's not in it, even though he had the opportunity to sort of bring her back. Is there things that I don't like in The Flash? For sure. Is it like annoying to me that Barry at the end of the day decides to put whatever sauce can up there? He's like, ooh, I can make this minor change and that will save everything. And he's like, yes, I saved my dad, but it's annoying that he didn't learn his lesson. But in a way, there's like the dark side of me that kind of likes that he didn't learn his lesson. It's like yep, he's learned it, he's let his mom go, but then there's just that little bit, because that happens in life where you're like,
I feel like it then should have been something maybe a little less consequential, because it isn't like this is a very small thing he's changing, where in the movie they say even changing the smallest little thing can change everything, because it can even change the past somehow. This isn't a small thing he's changing. Like, this is pretty significant. I think if that was the case, it would have, like, if that's the arc, he probably should have changed something smaller.
Well, the way I see it is, like, sure, it's like, you give Barry his little victory of like, oh, yay, his dad is free, right? That's awesome. You give him that little dub, and you think everything's fine.
I'd rather he would just figure it out in the present by being good at his job or something.
Yeah, and I
figuring something else out, finding another way.
It's a little bit like the ending of Army of Darkness, though. Well, not the ending, but the original ending, where like there's an alternate ending where he basically like.
I don't know. I'm thinking if Wonder Woman's ending can ruin it, then so can the Flash's ending, and that's what I think is happening here.
Well, I guess if you guys are in agreement, I can't save the Flash. I still think it's good. I think it does a lot of great things, and I think that the ending is fine for what it is. It ending on a joke is a little bit silly, but like at the end of the day, I still think the movie's logic is consistent. That like if you change something, like in the past, it's not like just gonna magically work out for you in the future with no unintended consequences. And I think that the movie still sticks with that concept. It doesn't mean like And it's like changing things in the past will inevitably change the futures in a way you didn't expect. And so even going back to like, yeah, saving his mom's life is like a big thing that needed to happen. And so, but then it's like, well, then Zod comes and destroys the world, and it's impossible. He just turns it into Krypton. Whereas with saving his dad just by putting a commander camp, yeah, his dad still served like 20 years in prison, but he gets to come out. But now the entire Justice League is completely different. And so
supposedly, we don't even know that.
Supposedly, but like things have changed. It's like Barry has returned to a world that's not his own.
I can't give credit to the movie.
And I'm saying it's still consistent though, because it doesn't stay the same. It's not like he did. What would have annoyed me more is if he'd put that tomato can up and nothing happened. It's just like, because then it's like, well, the movie's not. He changed something and nothing happened.
But that isn't what happened, and I'm not saying that's what should have happened. I'm saying it should have changed everything, and it really didn't.
Well, but it changed.
I can't give credit to the movie for not doing something.
Well, if you look at it as a butterfly effect, if you do something here or something there, it's going to affect things in different ways. So yeah, that thing he affected.
They should have shown all the ways it affected it.
Well, they didn't have, like, I don't think that is the movie needed, because you just saw a whole movie where it showed how it affected things. So then you have this ending where it just shows, everything.
Then don't change anything.
Then don't even include it. Like, don't even include where he changes anything. Like, why would they do that?
Or just don't include what happens after he changes something. And then whatever happens in the new universe is what happened as a consequence of that. I didn't want to bring that up because it's what literally every other Flashpoint does. And that's why it makes more sense.
Well, as a movie, like, if you're asking me what I would preferred, I would have preferred that Barry learns his lesson and then comes back, doesn't change anything. And then, like...
He's good at his job.
And then you just... well, it doesn't even have to save his dad. It's just, you could be like, yeah, my dad gets to rot in jail, and my mom's dead, and that's life. But I have to accept it because changing the past is not worth it, and I have to try to move forward, right? I would have preferred that. But him saving...
Well, now that I think about it, there's such an easy fix where it's just... You can just go look around the house and the crime scene and just find evidence that you can use in the future. It's a little contrived, but I would have believed it more.
It is contrived.
And it also makes more sense that he's not changing the past. He's just, like, bringing something up in the future.
Yeah, I guess I just think the movie ended in a fine way that was consistent enough with the logic of mess with time, things will change. But you guys don't like it, we can put it at Flash at 11.
Shazam.
I'm thinking Blue Beetle.
Well, this will be a long one.
You have Blue Beetle over Shazam.
Yeah.
Well, you're not considering the fact that Shazam 2 is actually really good.
That's the thing. Is okay, I know I have
really good, but
I have it here, but in my heart, it's tough because
remember the Skittles.
The Skittles are rough.
Remember the family. That Shazam 2 has the family theme and actually works with it properly. And Blue Beetle doesn't do that.
For those who don't know, we had the last recording, we had like what felt like an hour-long discussion on Blue Beetle versus Shazam 2.
I get it. It's hard to understand the cinematic masterpiece that is Shazam 2. But
so I'll try to give a Cliff Notes breakdown of what I remember us talking about. But basically, Shazam 2 gets the family theme right, but it really fumbles the last act. And Blue Beetle is more consistent throughout, but it's more consistently just kind of average. So, but the first two acts of Shazam aren't exactly, I would say like the opening like scene, like the inciting incident or whatever in Shazam 2 is actually pretty good. But other than that, like, it's just like, once again, it's like average, but I average in a way that I think is probably better than Blue Beetle. So
my thing is, so in that, still most of your guys' criticism, fair to say, comes from the last act. Whereas I think the last act is definitely mixed, but it's not an end that completely upends the first two acts and ruins the point of the movie. There is a movie a lot higher on this list that does that.
Yes. I think that movie that's a lot higher up on this list is also got really, really great first two acts. And Shazam 2 has...
And that's what I think.
Okay. It's so... I think Shazam 2... One thing I'll say is I thought it was funnier, probably, than Blue Beetle. Because I actually remember laughing a fair bit during the first two acts.
Mm-hmm.
The third act for me was where I disagree with you. Was like the movie really just fell apart for me. Like, either like whether it was me having problems with the plot or like me just losing interest or just not buying into things or just not finding it engaging. It just, the last act completely lost me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a minute since I've seen it, to be fair.
That sounds marginally better than the ending ruining the movie, though, to me.
Yes, but when the movie didn't have too much momentum for me in the first place, like, it's one of those things where I felt like it needed a strong final act for it to, like, cement itself. Because the first two acts, it's like, okay, you got something interesting going on here at the beginning, and okay, this next act is enjoyable enough, but for you to really tie this experience together, I'm going to need a good, like, final act, and it just didn't give that to me. And so it's just kind of like, not that, as you said, I don't think it completely destroys the movie. Like, it's not like, oh, the movie sucks now. But, like, if you were really enjoying the whole ride, I could see you liking it. It's just, for me personally, that last act was just borderline atrocious. But I don't know. What do you think, Fob?
I agree.
Now, Blue Beetle...
So the difference with Blue Beetle is I
Yes.
think it has much less to offer in the first two acts, and then still in the third act, I mean, it definitely wasn't better than the first two.
I think what Blue
In
Beetle
my opinion.
has going for it a little bit is that it's an origin story, and I'm biased because I like origin stories, but I like the scene where Blue Beetle is getting his powers and like interacting with the Scarab for the first time. Once it got to the end, I was like, meh. But like at the beginning, it was fun. It had a little bit of that. Honestly, Shazam 1 energy going for it, but Shazam 1 is better than Blue Beetle, where it's like where Shazam's learning his powers. I think that was fun, but like I like some of the eccentric family members. Was it Uncle Tio? I can't remember who it was. Uncle someone. That, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That guy, he was fun. Grandma was cringe. Straight cringe.
A little bit, yeah.
Straight cringe. And I can't remember anything as cringy as the grandma in Shazam 2. But
What?
Nectar of the Gods.
Oh, I was
My
about to
bad.
say,
Yeah.
what is
That was
wrong
pretty
with you?
cringe. I was thinking of a character like doing an acting cringe more, but you know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. Point is,
Little girl giving the unicorn Skittles.
she's like
which
a little
turns-
girl. I don't know.
Which
Little
turns
girls
them
act
into
cringe. I don't know.
which turns
Point
them
is,
into like tame beasts. These evil unicorns.
it was more like the fact that all the adults were like, "Yeah, let's try it." I was like, "Oh my goodness." I'm sure that they're basically like, unicorns are the most dangerous creatures on the planet.
They're a bunch of dumb animals. They could have fed them anything and they would have liked them.
And they're like, the only way to tame unicorns is with the nectar of the gods. She's like, we got Skittles, and the adults were like, sure, let's try it. And I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, where's the parental supervision? They were just like watching their daughter give the Skittles like.
I guess what I'll say then is that that's made out to be a comedic scene, whereas the scene where the Beetle's parents just don't care that he's being dragged away and gonna be tortured to death. They just kind of don't care.
Yeah, they read the script. They knew they were gonna save him.
It's true.
They were like, we'll get to him.
Somehow they knew.
It's fine.
Whereas that's portrayed as a more serious scene with, to me, some pretty clashing issues.
I do say that I liked. Do I like how Shazam fam was able to sort of get Helen Mirren's character more on their side, or do I like how Blue Beetle kind of got the other guy at the end to kind of come to his side. They have that kind of similar thing in the last act as well.
That's true. I think actually what I like about Shazam 2, maybe this isn't even much of a technical benefit to it, but I think I like the portrayal of the Greek goddess sisters just bickering with each other a bunch. And even though they're really powerful and cunning, they just can't get over each other. And it's just that dynamic of just huge mistrust between them. And that's what eventually causes their downfall, which, I mean, it's not like the protagonists had a huge investment in that, but
Yeah.
it's also something that I found...
An interesting dynamic.
It is an interesting dynamic, which I don't think existed for the villains of Blue Beetle.
Yeah, these two movies are just neck and neck for me. Like, when I think about which ones I like and don't like, it really, like, rattles my brain a little bit, because I'm like, they're so close to me and being perfectly mid. But
I also think that
yeah.
Shazam 2, I feel, deserves some credit for being a movie that actually works with consequences very well and consistently. So,
Well, I mean,
one of the only superhero movies ever to take the consequences of the first movie and take it into the next one. Most of this, of course, I am like lowering my expectations. Not only a superhero movie, but a DCEU movie. Did the same thing for Blue Beetle and all the rest of these movies. But the one scene where Anthea, that's the character.
I don't know which one that one is.
She's the main love interest for...
Oh, Rachel Zegler's character?
I think so.
Okay.
So it's the one scene where I think her sister shoots at her with the staff, and then I completely didn't expect it. This is the first time one of these movies caught me off guard completely. Is she uses her powers, like the power of the Axis, to immediately like completely switch far away, and the shot was actually really good looking, and just the way it was directed was super visceral, and I was like, wow, that was actually really good.
Yeah, I don't remember it.
I just think there's a lot of scenes kind of like that in Shazam 2,
I
where
think
it's a very rare time in modern superhero movies where they play with their powers in a very unique and interesting way, and that happens a lot in this movie. That I appreciated that.
I think Shazam 2 has some positive elements for sure. I think that I remember watching it and being kind of like excited and at times, and one thing I will say, even though I didn't like the climax, my biggest problem with the first movie, and we'll get to this later, and this isn't a fair criticism, this is just like me personally, I was like, is that the whole Shazam fam was like there, like all of his family had powers, and I'm like, only one person's supposed to have superpowers. What the heck, bro? And so, but as an inverse to that, I like how they all start out with powers in this movie and then slowly whittles down to just Billy. And so, conceptually, I think that's pretty cool, and it satisfied my ape brain of like, mono.
That's what these movies are about. It's just not. That's the kind of thing I don't feel watching the rest of these on this list.
Yeah. So I think I can see Shazam 2 being above Blue Beetle. I'm fine with either though, to be honest. Do you wanna go to bat for Blue Beetle, bro?
No.
I'll be fine putting, yeah.
We'll go Blue Beetle at number 10. And I will say I like Blue Beetle all right. I thought it was a decent time, and
I don't, but it has a couple of good parts, and I think it's fine to like it. But by that logic, I think it's fine to like Shazam 2 as well.
At the end of the day, if
you guys just wouldn't get it, it's fine.
But at the end of the day,
sounds like you don't get Shazam 2.
I don't.
At the end of the day, though, these movies though are like kind of mid. I mean, I'm upset that The Flash is all the way down at 11.
None of these are Oscar winning.
It's fine. It's whatever.
Except for one of them, in fact. Suicide Squad did win an Oscar.
That's true.
What?
It is an Oscar winning movie.
Costume design.
Oh.
It's just funny because it wasn't that good.
I thought the costume design was okay. I don't know if it was the best of 2016, but I mean, when you have the freaking BVS Batman
Even
suit,
going up against that, I don't think it wins.
no, it's like, well, never mind. I'm getting off topic. I
Yeah.
love the BVS Bat. We'll get to it soon. Hopefully. Maybe not soon. Maybe in an hour or two.
Yeah, we'll be here a bit.
All right.
What do we got next?
Number 8. Let's see. What's on the chopping block now? It seems to be Suicide.
Let's talk about like Birds of Prey, the Suicide Squad. Let's talk about movies like those.
Those,
you know?
yeah, the Birds of Prey and the Suicide Squad. Okay, guys. Tough for me. I think the Suicide Squad.
Oh, you already put Shazam 2 down. Fine. Fine. We already talked about
If I could
so.
move the Flash up, I'd put Shazam 2 above the Suicide Squad. But it's fine. It's
no,
whatever.
it's fine by me.
Yeah, I think the Suicide Squad is probably next up on the docket, simply because do I think it's better than Birds of Prey? Maybe not. Or wait, do I think it's Birds of Prey is better than the Suicide Squad? Maybe not. But I liked more things in Birds of Prey than I liked in the Suicide Squad, and that's
I
kind
feel
of
the same way.
Yeah.
So, The Suicide Squad by James Gunn, in terms of feels versus reels, I'm usually on the side of reels. I go to bat for the reels. But for feels in this movie, I felt nothing watching it, and I didn't enjoy a single thing in it. There are things I enjoyed about every movie below this one, maybe except Justice League. Just can't think of one for that, I guess. I can't think of something in Suicide Squad that I was actually enjoying watching.
And I've always said the worst thing that you can feel during a movie is numbness. Like, I don't care about anything. That is the worst way to it's
Aquaman
better
2.
Yeah, it's better for a movie to be terrible in a funny way, like a Mortal Kombat Annihilation or something.
It's true. I definitely feel the same way.
Than for it to be like so painfully mediocre. And I don't even feel the same way about the Suicide Squad as you. I dislike it for different reasons. So, and because there actually is a fair amount of things I do feel, I guess, in your sense that I liked, but I just feel like if that's how I'm based, because I don't think either of these movies really worked for me that well on a story level. Yeah. But if we're talking about like which one had the better moments, then if neither story really worked for me around the same, I think Birds of Prey
had better moments. Yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's because its moments weren't. Its supposed like key moments weren't clashing with the rest of it, and it wasn't just working against itself. So, I mean, both of the movies have pretty jarring switches of a style. Yeah. Part of the way through, and I think Birds of Prey did that less. I actually really wanted to like Birds of Prey, but it didn't rank very high for me. Yeah. But it still had things that are really good that you can't take away from it, that the movie doesn't take away from. So, like, Margot Robbie and Ewan McGregor do a phenomenal job acting. Yes. They play their characters great. It's some of the best performances in all of these movies, I think.
Yeah, Ewan McGregor really, really hypes up that crazed, was Roman Sionis, is that his name?
You always get the names, man. You're always on top of it.
I don't know how. It's just like it's those few Batman comics I read, I guess. I don't know.
The first recording, you pulled Maxwell Lord from Wonder Woman 1984. A movie from 1984. I can't believe it.
It's like so many years ago. It's like 40 years ago. No, I was like, Black Mask, he really had that like crazed energy, and I think he captured that well. And Harley Quinn in this movie was like potentially my favorite Harley Quinn ever that I've seen. She had such a fun and infectious energy to her and was very captivating. In almost all of the scenes she was in, I liked. It was all the other people I didn't like.
Pretty much, yeah. So if it needed to be a Birds of Prey movie or a Harley Quinn movie. Yeah, if it was probably a Harley Quinn movie since I liked everything about her.
If it was called Harley Quinn and Black Mask, like the movie, would be probably a lot higher up on this list.
Probably
Unfortunately,
so.
It's Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of Harley Quinn, which means that the Birds of Prey are present, and they're not good. So, yeah, but at the same time, I still liked it more than the Suicide Squad. The Suicide Squad, my issues are different than Kyle. I thought the first 2 acts were pretty decent fun, and then the last act tanked it, which is a recurring theme for me. So, yeah, that's kind of how I feel. But are you fine putting the Suicide Squad at 8 then?
Fine by me.
The Fob hasn't seen it, so he can't really say much. Sorry, buddy. Unless he's just like, doesn't sound as cool. So, hell.
I'm fine putting it. And then Birds of Prey next time.
I'm not going to
coming against.
I'm not going to convince anyone that it's better than Wonder Woman. So I'm not even going to.
Probably not.
No. No. Yeah. But if you ask me which one I'd rather watch again, Wonder Woman or Birds of Prey, well, I got news for you, buddy. It ain't Wonder Woman.
I probably agree with you.
But, maybe that's not the criteria we need here.
Zack Snyder's Justice League, and get that out of the way too.
Yeah, that's probably. We'll just start typing it in, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Last time we had a long discussion about this. I don't like just putting it down already because I think Zack Snyder's Justice League is one of the best movies on this list by far. However, it is too long, and I cannot deny that. There's a lot of filler. I cannot deny that.
It's boring.
I'm going to deny that. I don't think it's boring. But I think
Filler is boring.
I think it's, for the most part, the filler stuff I still like. I feel like a tighter version of this movie, though, is potentially my favorite superhero team-up movie of all time.
Oh, yeah, what we do have to say about it, to clarify, for all the fans of this, listen out there, I don't know why you're a fan of this movie, but I can respect it. But in any case, it's this movie. You could probably rank it higher as like your favorite out of just watching all of these, but for the purposes of this, it's a movie ranking. So we're ranking it as a movie, and in a lot of cases, it doesn't help it since it's a director's cut. It just adds a bunch of content that doesn't necessarily make sense to the story, just to show you everything he had planned.
Yeah.
So that tanks it a little as a movie, but it's fine to enjoy things like that. It's just for the purposes of this. We're not. Yeah. That's not a huge benefit.
At the same time, though, as a movie, I still think that it's really good. And
it's too long as a movie.
Well, but
it's true.
I mean, it is too long as a movie, but it's borderline a miniseries on HBO.
That's what I'm
Max,
saying. That's that's my
but we're
problem.
ranking movies.
We're ranking a movie, not a miniseries.
I'm ranking
it's not even produced as a miniseries.
It's not, and so I think the format it was delivered as a movie on a streaming service, broken up into episodes, I think it works just fine. But me personally, if I had all of the power, or if I was a dictator, I would say, screw that movie criteria. We're ranking it as a piece of content. Even still, it might not go up higher for these guys, so it doesn't matter. But that's why I'm not going to do that. However, like for me, I think if you were to watch this as like an episodic format, I think that it would work completely fine.
What do we have left?
We have one. Now we're at our top 5.
Yes.
And also, I have to say, Zack Snyder's Justice League, I think, has the best spectacle moments in the entire DC expanded universe, and I think it is. I think it's a really great team up film, and if it was tighter, I would say that it was potentially one of, if not the best superhero team up movies. So that's my fun opinion. Wonder Woman's next.
Here's my deal that I would put forward. We could put Wonder Woman is 5th.
Yeah.
I'll put Wonder Woman 5th if BVS is 4th.
No.
Okay. Then I guess we're arguing it out because I think BVS goes next.
This is just a loss for me.
I don't. Here's the thing. I love Batman v Superman. To me, it is the best superhero movie of the 2010s. I know I'm the only one who thinks that. I'm not saying that you two think that at all. 'Cause-
Sadly, you're not the only one who thinks that.
well, I'm the only one that I know that thinks that, because everyone I tell in the common space is like, what? It's not Avengers Endgame, bro? And so I'm like, yeah.
If you argue like that year, I could maybe see it. It's just that of the whole 2010s, ouch.
Yeah, man. That's my greatest hot take in all of superhero media. So I think BVS does a lot of great things. That's all I'm gonna say. Case closed.
Oh boy, I wish that could have been all our talk instead of.
Why did you say that name?
Oh. To me, it's just completely tonally inconsistent, and it does a terrible job.
It's second on my list. That's how you know this universe sucks.
Me now understanding this movie and still trying to watch it, it does such a horrible job of trying to tell the audience the meaning behind what's happening. And when you can't discern the meaning, and when you're not attached to the characters in a certain way, it's really hard to see why what's happening is happening. And it's not that the plot doesn't make sense or can't make sense, it's that you don't really know why. It feels like it's not giving you really big pieces of the puzzle.
And so I guess one thing that I will say that I like a lot about BVS, I kind of like how you put it in a weird way, is almost like a puzzle. It's not a movie, unlike a lot of these superhero movies in this universe, and even in the Marvel universe as well, they hold your hand a lot. And BVS does not hold your hand. It's not like it's not a casual, friendly superhero movie, and it's kind of a weird movie to have as your second film in your universe. I think that's the biggest thing I hold against it, is like, I think this movie would be great near the end of the universe, or like somewhere in the middle, but at the beginning, basically your second entry is not as good. Taking that out though, I still think that Batman v Superman has a lot of great substance and content. I think it's incredibly shot. I think Zack Snyder's cinematic flair is on full display here, and I would say it's probably, when it comes to, other than like maybe like 300, I think when it comes from a pure visual standpoint, I think it's probably his best work, where he doesn't overuse the slow-mo, but he also kind of keeps it, he reins it in for important moments. I think that a lot of the ways that things are framed looks straight out of like a comic book and an art piece. Just on a visual level, I think it's pretty good. Is it a little desaturated at times? Sure, but I still think it looks good. It fits the tone of the movie. And I'm impressed with how he choreographed everything. When it comes to the characters, I would say most of them. I think that Batman, this is maybe my favorite on-screen version of Batman, of Ben Affleck's Batman. Especially if we're talking about just the way he looks. I think he's like 6'4", and he's really large. He's got that Frank Miller Batman aesthetic to him, and I think that he's the first Batman that I saw on screen where I really felt like he captured the physicality of the Batman that I would like want to see. Where he's, I like the way his voice sounds. I like his tech, and also I like his character arc that he has in the movie.
We could probably get Man of Steel next.
I think Man of Steel's...
I think Man of Steel's a lot better than this movie.
I think it's a lot better, but... Well, I don't know if I actually think it's a lot better.
The problem with talking about BVS on this particular is I could talk about BVS for what seems like 3 hours. I could talk about how great BVS is for longer than the movie's
And can I
runtime.
interrupt and address some of these points? Okay,
Yeah.
So on the topic of it being a puzzle, there is a way for a movie to be a puzzle.
Yeah.
And be interesting to the audience. In fact, by the end of this movie, you can sort of tell what happens. You're just not really sure why. There's a movie called Primer that we really need to watch. That movie's plot is a puzzle. I don't think anyone can or has understood the plot watching that movie the first time through. It's a time travel one.
Yeah.
But that movie does a great job of making you interested in it and trying to, like, everyone I've shown that movie to, they try to start figuring out the plot, and they're really interested in thinking more about the movie and trying to piece it together, like what happened. BVS isn't shot well as a movie that's trying to engage you after you see it. Sort of because it wraps up in a way that is strange to it for a puzzle-like movie, because then the resolution to the ending is they team up and fight a bad guy, and that's not a complicated kind of ending, because then the plot that it's trying to convey to you, that the puzzle it's trying to build, that ending is kind of irrelevant to it. The part that's more relevant is when he goes to save Superman's mom.
Yeah.
That's sort of a conclusion to that movie, but that's not the end of that movie. The end of that movie is weird monster shows up and they fight him, and that was Lex Luthor's plan.
Yeah.
For big monster. What else did you say?
I talked about Batman.
Oh yeah, I don't know. He was fine, I guess.
More of a subjective thing, I suppose.
So there's the topic of him killing. You know me. I like my Batmans as killers.
Yeah.
I like when Michael Keaton just throws people off the cliff. Just kill them, dude.
Drops dynamite
These
in
are
their
bad
belt.
dudes. Just kill them. I think there is something to be said for what the movie is trying to convey to the audience, where if Zack Snyder is going on record and saying that Batman doesn't actually kill people, and that movie happens the way it does, I think that's a really good representation of a lot of other things about that movie where he has horrible communication issues with what he's trying to convey. Because to me, that should not have been a Batman who was on the edge or almost killing people. To me, this was a Batman who had been killing people, and now the writer of the movie is telling me that it's the exact opposite. That actually, no, he wouldn't do that ever.
When I hear Zach talking behind the scenes, I've watched a lot of interviews on this movie. He didn't like deny that Batman like kills people. He said some like weird.
He said, I don't think he really kills people.
But that's the thing. He says, I don't think he really kills people. Like if you take that sentence, but if you watch it behind the whole context, he literally says Batman kills people. Like, I think there's a lot of things you can factor in when he's saying that, as like, for one, it's just like some random interviews. So when I'm watching the movie as it is, like sometimes what the director says behind the scenes isn't necessarily matters much. But even if you would do that, you take the whole context of what he's saying. He basically says Batman kills people. So you could have said that was a studio mandate, like, hey man, Christopher Nolan's Batman didn't kill anyone, so could you just say he doesn't kill anyone? And he's like, all right, guys, I guess I'll technically say he doesn't kill anyone. So there's so many things that could have gone into that behind the scenes. I'm not going to have that as the end-all, be-all.
So that's the thing.
Yeah.
If this is a Batman that doesn't kill people, I think he's a very weird character.
I think he does kill people. So I would say that I do think he kills people. Not in a way, in the kind of the way Zack Snyder described, to be fair. It's that he's not just like grabbing, like, I know the joke is like his Batman just shoots people with machine guns, but he actually doesn't. I mean, he has his Batmobile that one time. It's more like he just doesn't care about human life anymore. And so he doesn't go out of his way to kill people. He doesn't just like...
It's a recklessness thing.
Yeah, he's just reckless, and he doesn't...
So
you die.
that gets weird when you get into law. And of course, law is weird because he's a vigilante, but...
He's already breaking the law.
Correct. The thing is with that is he's putting himself in these situations. Batman is the prepared character. He is the most prepared character in media somehow. But so he is choosing every situation he goes into, and he is choosing to use lethal means.
Yeah, I think
that's killing people.
I think he kills people. My point is that...
Then I think he makes very strange decisions in how he goes about it.
I think he makes strange decisions in that movie too, but the point, I think that's like kind of like part of his character in that movie, and I don't think that it hinders his character in a lot of ways. Like, yeah, he kills people, but at the end of the day, he's not intentionally going out of his way to kill people. He's just gotten to such a point of not caring about humanity that he doesn't care whether they live or die. He's just like, oh, they're shooting my car. That could kill me. So I'm just going to like blow up their car. Hopefully they're fine. I don't care. You know, like, oh, I'll knock them out, but I'll punch them in the face. They might die from me punching them in the face. I don't care. It's a very rageful, jaded Batman that just doesn't care anymore. He's been Batman for a long time. He's been in the city for a long time. He's like seen friends go bad, seen all these things happen. He's like, look, I just don't care. He literally says criminals are like weeds. I don't care. It doesn't matter how much I lock him up. He just doesn't care. He's lost touch with his humanity, which I actually think parallels Superman really well, who is an literal alien, but he's trying so hard to do the right thing at all times. And so I think the idea that Superman helps give Batman hope in humanity again by the end of the movie is poetic in a sense. And then I like how in Zack Snyder's Justice League they carry on that character arc of Batman having hope in humanity, and I think that they actually do that pretty well. And a lot of Batman movies don't give Batman an arc. I like the arc of Batman not necessarily having to become Batman again, like in like The Dark Knight Rises or something, but like him literally remembering like the importance of human life, because like doing that job you can just get so like null and void to like things, and you just don't care anymore. So I think it works just fine, and I mean I'd actually say it's one of my favorite parts of the movie. But
so it doesn't, for me, it doesn't really read well that he's considering someone like Superman, far be it from a criminal, but just like a bad person or destructive force, when oftentimes he is doing kind of the same thing, which you can argue that's like, oh yeah, I mean, everyone's a hypocrite. It's like, yeah, but at some point you have to argue the controversial part of what Superman did really at the time was killing Zod instead of just knocking him out or trying to figure something out. This feels like a Batman that should have understood that a little bit more. But instead he was focused on other things, like how Superman is putting people in danger with his actions. And it's like, so that doesn't read well as the arc of Batman trying to kill criminals. Because then it feels like he should actually agree with Superman a little bit more.
Well, I think it makes sense. I'm in the sense that, well, for one, it's a debate. Like, Batman's morals in this movie, or his thoughts towards Superman, I think are up for debate. So even if you're like, well, I disagree with Batman's logic, that's not necessarily against the movie, because Batman's a flawed character with flawed logic at times. But even with that being said, I think I don't think he was mad that Zod, like, he killed Zod. He wasn't like, man, I'm saying it's the opposite.
Yeah. He should be able to appreciate that at that point.
Yeah, but it's not, maybe he does, but I think
that reckless like attitude towards like fighting crime and the lack of value for humanity, that's something I don't think Superman has, but that's what he portrayed. That's why people were afraid of him.
Yeah, but
that's what Batman does.
The difference between Batman is if Batman decides, I'm going to turn against the world one day, he can't just destroy the world. That's his philosophy. Superman decides, I'm going to turn against the world one day, then it's over. You're done. You can't stop him because he's Superman. That's the whole point. Like, that's why Batman isn't just killing random people that are bad because he's like, well, they're bad and I need to stop them. It's that if Superman goes bad, well, then he's a threat to the entire world. So, and then if you're Batman and you're seeing the signs that Superman might be cracking under the pressure, even if he's not necessarily blowing everyone up yet, but Lex Luthor's you're already concerned about this guy, and then Lex Luthor's making it seem like, hey, Superman might be cracking. He might be like, and he's like, well, if Superman cracks, then it's over. So I have to take him out, and I think that works just fine. It's looking at it from his perspective of like, like, I don't have any faith in this guy. He's not from a place of faith. He's like, I am from the perspective of this guy goes bad, it's over. And so I think even if you disagree with Batman in that perspective, I still think his logic is sound enough that I can understand why he would do it.
So my argument for this movie always is on the crux of, is there a flow of logic to this movie? Yes. I think that for most of these movies, there is a flow of logic with it. My point is that it's not a very convincing one. It doesn't do a good job of investing people in the plots. I don't think it's especially pretty or like visually striking. So here was another example about like cinematography and shots. I watched Werewolf by Night recently.
I've heard that one's good.
That's a good example of a movie that is completely black and white. So it is a dark movie, but it plays with that aspect of being monochrome very well. And I think it's something that earns it very well. So there is a way to make a dark movie and make it work. And I was impressed watching that movie and how it used color or lack thereof. I was not impressed watching the BVS Ultimate Cut and how it used color. And that goes far to make a lot of cinematic shots not look so good. And I think the only real shot that I liked in this movie, I mean, it's stolen from The Dark Knight Returns anyways, which is okay. It's good to have cool looking shots that are references, but to me that was his only really impressive shot for me. I didn't especially like anything else that I saw.
I completely disagree. I mean, I can kind of agree with you on the grading a little bit. The color grading, out of all of Zack Snyder's cinematic elements, his color grading is not my favorite. I think that, honestly, if I was going to give one dub to Justice League, is that at least it was kind of colorful at times. Like, Zack Snyder's if you think BVS is bad, like, Zack Snyder's Justice League's color grading is awful. It's But at the same...
But it's more consistent. It's more consistent, and I think it's truer to a lot of the scenes that it's in.
Yeah.
And I can't say the same for BVS.
Though, I think that the color grading is... I think it's better. Not his best, but I think it's better. And I also think that outside of color grading, I still think that...
I think of his movies that I've seen, it's the worst.
I disagree.
His color grading,
Zack Snyder's
I think it's the
Justice
worst
League is probably my least favorite of his. But I think that BVS, like, I'm taking into account all of the aspects, not just color grading. And even still, with all of the aspects considered, and I still like the color grading okay, I still think it's a really well-shot movie. I think his framing is almost perfect. I think the way that he choreographs action is really well done.
Yes. So on the topic of things like conveying meaning, it works with that. It works with color gradient. It works with shots and action scenes. I think every movie that I have placed above this does it better. I think Wonder Woman, Man of Steel, Aquaman, and Shazam all do those things better. I think I like action scenes in all of them more. I can think of many shots that I like in those more, and I can understand easily what's happening in them more. And I guess the only thing I can say is that when you look at the deeper meaning, BVS might have a little more deeper meaning, but to me that's getting it to the same place as the rest of these movies when you think about it, not putting it above them. I don't think it does that better.
I still think it... I'll disagree with you there. I actually... Like, that's the thing. This is a lot of a matter just disagreeing. I think that BVS is framed well. I think that BVS does have a lot better action than some... I think Man of Steel is close, but it's the same guy. Aquaman has... I like Aquaman's action. Shazam's action was actually pretty underwhelming for me. I don't think that Shazam has particularly great action scenes, but...
well, it's a less action-heavy movie.
But the scenes that are there, I don't necessarily think.
I would say then... So, Shazam is less of an action movie, so you have to argue that a lot of those scenes convey the purpose of them better, and I think they definitely do.
What about Aquaman? Should we put Aquaman next? I
think Aquaman's better than Wonder Woman.
I think so too.
Well, Maybe we should just shelf BVS for a second. And
Because we're never gonna get through
the problem is I just
podcast.
want to keep talking about BVS. It's innate in my biology, I think. at
We
this
can talk
point.
about it after the podcast.
I don't feel good about putting BVS at 5 or 4.
Then I can accept Wonder Woman.
So
Yeah, Wonder Woman's fine, I guess.
Wonder Woman, basically,
I have no passion for any of these movies. whatsoever.
my plan was to bore you by talking about BVS so much that you're like, I don't
I'm
care.
too much of a contrarian. I can always argue. I can
Yeah.
argue all day, any day.
And so,
Long story short, Wonder Woman's ending ruins it.
yeah. It's,
First 2 acts are good. Last act really sucks.
yes. And once again, Gal Gadot, great Wonder Woman. Maybe our favorite, I would say. I don't know about you, Fob, but I assume
I'd argue
she's...
putting Shazam now, too.
With live action, yeah, my favorite.
All right. So, well, let's see. What do we have left? We have Shazam,
Or Aquaman.
Aquaman.
I would say Aquaman, then BVS.
So it's
then
Shazam, Aquaman, Man of Steel. I think not Man of Steel.
I will here on be arguing BVS in every place
Well,
because I obviously think it's worse than the rest of them.
overruled. I'm with the Fob. I think Aquaman and Shazam are next.
Well, I feel like BVS could be Shazam and BVS could switch places too. So I feel like
Well, I
feel like we could do Aquaman, then BVS, then Shazam.
Aquaman, BVS, Shazam,
Missing one?
And then
Oh,
Man of
Steel's a...
Man of Steel.
Steel.
But well, I'll say this: I don't.
I wouldn't be opposed to that.
I'm opposed to it. I think. So let's see. I like Aquaman more than Shazam. I don't think I'm going to convince either of you of that. So I think Aquaman should go at 4. I mean,
I think
like
we should talk about Aquaman first. Not because I necessarily disagree, but I need a refresher, honestly.
So I think what Aquaman does, I think the worst thing about Aquaman, I'll say, just to get this out of the way, is the dialogue. The dialogue, like Aquaman 2, is atrocious. The lines are so cookie cutter. There's about 1 billion exposition scenes in the movie. Like, from that standpoint, like, the movie is bad. It's not even mediocre. It's just bad. On the flip side of that, though, conceptually and how the story plays out, I actually think it is really cool. I think the idea of sort of the lost king of Atlantis coming back to challenge his brother for the throne, and then goes on some Indiana Jones adventure odyssey, then through like this horror movie crypt, and then makes his way back to Atlantis with the new Excalibur of Atlantis, basically, to fight his brother in a massive battle underwater, only to rematch him at the top on his playing field using the techniques that he had learned earlier in the movie, is just cool. I think that it's very it's kind of like Shazam in a way. It feels very mythic, and the tone of the movie doesn't match that always because it's so goofy at times. But I think that how the story plays out is actually pretty cool. It's got Willem Dafoe, and I like him, and he's cool too. So that's another plus right there. I think that the movie has really good action, like maybe the best action out of all of these movies at this point, because I think like is a real kinetic energy. And there's a lot of variety in the set pieces themselves as well, and I think you have some more grounded action and you have more CGI spectacle action, and I love that variety. Like Black Manta versus Aquaman.
This might be the first movie to actually earn overuse of CGI. Well, it's not an overuse, so it earned
appropriate
a lot of
use. Yeah,
exactly.
Like I think
It's very good.
Aquaman fighting Orm underwater in like a freaking tournament arc, or not tournament arc, but Battle for Atlantis, is really cool. And it's got a lot of spectacle. They do a lot of creative things with the tridents.
Are we sure Man of Steel goes above this movie?
Well, the thing is, I'm talking about the action, but Man of Steel does so many things better.
I think you just described a lot of things that Aquaman does really well, and I'm like, I don't know that Man of Steel does it better.
I'm like about 95% 5% sure Man of Steel does it better.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I think we put Aquaman next.
I think Aquaman is really, like, at this point, not Wonder Woman. For my top 5, I actually really like all these movies. So, especially my top 4. I'm a big fan of my top 4. But I think Aquaman, I like Aquaman more than Shazam, but I'm not going to convince either of you of that. Kyle likes Aquaman more than Man of Steel, but he's not going to convince us of that. So it's kind of like we're all in the place where we each kind of like a movie better.
Playing for agreement here, I think Aquaman is the logical next choice.
It is, just because we all have a movie that we think deserves to go above it, but we can't convince each other of what that movie is. And so
saving BVS here is just still weird to me because
BVS in number 3, so Aquaman right now.
BVS at number 3?
Yeah, definitely.
I will only agree to Aquaman here if we put BVS at 3.
So let's see, we have Shazam, Man of Steel.
Because then, like, Man of Steel and Shazam are definitely better than BVS. Aquaman definitely is, but man.
And then number 2 is Shazam, and number 1 is Man of Steel.
I can accept that.
That's what I get.
All right, so
I'll take it.
I'll go with, let's see, we'll go Aquaman.
I also
number 4.
like Man of Steel more than I like BVS. I don't know why I put BVS above it. It's also, Man of Steel is also a better movie than BVS. I don't know why I put BVS so high.
I kind of disagree, but obviously we don't need to go too into it because we have... The problem with BVS, I could just talk about it for forever. So BVS, Aquaman at number 4, BVS at number 3.
I think the big thing is Man of Steel aims lower than BVS.
Yeah, and so BVS, one thing you can't say is that it didn't swing for the fences. It's swaying, and depending on who you are, you might say it's swaying and it missed. And for me, it was a home run. So, but I think it is a very niche movie, and that as a universe film might not be a $300 million budget universe movie. You shouldn't be trying to swing for the fences on a niche type of project that only Hunter LaFroth will see the true mastery and vision of. So, and we'll put Man of Steel at number 1. I think Shazam is kind of mid, but everyone else seems to like it, unfortunately.
I think it's better than Man of Steel.
I just don't like DC movies.
Shazam, I just think Shazam has kind of a mid villain, and I don't really care for the third act once again, but it's not bad. It doesn't ruin the movie or anything. And it's worse than Shazam 2, but I feel like the character of Billy Batson and Captain Marvel don't really feel as much like the same person. But, I mean, other than that, I just think it's a fun time that puts a smile on my face. The comedic timing's usually pretty good. The action's not great, but it's a low-budget movie, so I'm not expecting things. And there's,
Should we go over the ranking?
Well, I got to talk about Man of Steel real quick.
Let's talk about Man of Steel.
Well, I love Man of Steel.
I like Man of Steel, too.
I think, you don't like Man of Steel, though. That's the crazy
I've had enough of Zack Snyder.
I like most of these.
I don't like any of these, but listen, I've had enough of talking about Zack Snyder.
Man of Steel.
There's 3 movies on this list you can convince me to rewatch.
Number 1, Man of
it's
Steel.
Shazam 2, and Suicide Squad. That's all I got.
I think Man of Steel is a great introduction to a new universe, and I think that beyond that, though, as a standalone film, I think it excels even more than that. I think taking a different look at the character of Superman in this way and basically framing it around if Superman came to Earth, this would literally be the biggest event in human history, unless someone made granted a bunch of wishes in 1984. And other than that, this would be the biggest event in human history, and they really play up that fact, and I think they play that up really well. Additionally, I think Superman trying to find himself and find who he is and decide whether he sides with humanity or Krypton is just super compelling in a lot of ways. I think Henry Cavill looks the part and it physically fits the role. Amy Adams is just all right. But other than that, I just think it does a lot of great things. I think the spectacle is top notch. I think Zod is a great villain. I think he's potentially the best villain in this entire universe, which I know isn't saying
That's what made me say that it should be number one, because Zod was like just a good villain.
I think Black Mask's better.
Who?
Agree. He's in Birds of Prey. You haven't seen it. I'm going to agree to disagree on that, so we don't waste too much time. But I think Zod is better. But my favorite might be Lex Luthor. And I know I'm not going to get anyone on that.
That's tragic.
Yeah,
That is tragic.
it's cherry. But Man of Steel, it just checks a lot of the boxes for me. My biggest problem with this movie is I feel like the pacing is a little bit wonky at times, where it's like you get a lot of like personal setup for half of the movie, and then the next half of the movie is just straight gorilla-brained action. So
It kind of has the same pacing of like Shazam,
yeah,
but Man of Steel is a better villain. So my thoughts on Man of Steel. It's not that good. Killing Zod was cool, and Superman learning how to fly was a cool scene. That's it. That's all I got.
yep.
All right.
Love Man of Steel. Let's go over the final rankings here. Number 16, we have Justice League.
Sucks.
15, Aquaman 2.
Sucks more, but nobody wants to agree with me.
14, Wonder Woman 1984. 13, Suicide Squad.
Tragic.
12, Black Adam.
Good.
11, Flash.
These are worse.
Wish it was higher, but
I don't.
know, what can I do? 10 is Blue Beetle. How the frick did that get to 10? It's fine.
Peak fiction.
9 is Shazam 2.
Because there's not 9 more terrible movies.
And now I see why. 9 is Shazam 2.
Deserves
or
better.
Shazam Fury of the Gods. 8 is The Suicide Squad. 7 is Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of Harley Quinn. 6 is Zack Snyder's Justice League. 5 is Wonder Woman. Overrated, to be honest. 4 is Aquaman. 3 is Batman v Superman Ultimate Edition. 2 is Shazam, and number 1 is Man of Steel. So, that is our list. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode, and make sure to smash that subscribe button, as the YouTubers like to say. Leave a comment down below. What's your favorite DC Expanded Universe movie? Or heck, just give us the whole ranking of everything you've seen.
And if you haven't seen any of them, good. Don't.
I only recommend just watching Man of Steel.
Don't even watch any
Straight
of them.
up, I recommend just watching Man of Steel,
Don't even
Batman
bother.
v Superman,
Don't even
Zack
bother.
Snyder's Justice
Just watch
League,
Marvel movies.
Aquaman, and Shazam.
Don't watch those either.
That's all I recommend. I think other than that,
I recommend none of them. Maybe Shazam because it's not connected. That's it.
yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's our episode, guys. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you later. That's a wrap. That wasn't too bad.
I hate these movies.